executive session into open session.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we return from executive session to open session. Any discussion of this motion? All those in favor of returning to open session, let it be known by raising your hand. All those opposed, we are back in open session. We would like to take this opportunity to welcome those individuals who are live streaming the board meetings. We are sorry that we are about 15 minutes late, but we want to take this time to welcome you, and we're glad that you took the time out of your busy schedule in order to be with us. Please let's stand for a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we see? You have the agenda before you. We need a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as it's written.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as written. In discussion of this motion. All those in favor of approving the agenda as written, let it be known by raising your hand. Those opposed, the agenda has been approved. We're down to E, consent action items. We need to address this.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the May 21st, 2020 budget workshop minutes.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the May 21st, 2020 budget workshop. In discussion of this motion.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, I know we're going to talk about the minutes tonight, but I just inherently disagree with basically not summarizing any discussion, even in our workshops. So I'm just going to say that's why I'm going to vote against it. It's nothing to do with how the minutes have been transcribed. That's just why I'm going to vote against it.
Okay, any other discussion?
Is this for the 21st and 26th?
Just the 21st.
Just the 21st.
Okay.
We're just doing the budget workshop minutes. Okay? All those in favor of approving the budget workshop, the May 21st, 2020 budget workshop minutes, let me know and raise your hand. Those opposed?
And Mr. Chairman, I abstain because I was absent.
Okay. Let's move on.
All right, I'll move we accept the May 26, 2020 regular board meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the May 26, 2020 regular board meeting minutes. In discussion of this motion. All those in favor of approving the May 26, 2020 regular board meeting minutes, let it be known by raising your hand. Those opposed? The minutes have been approved.
And I also abstained from, I was not present. Okay.
Okay. Did you get your count, Ms. Mims? Okay. All right, let's move on to the consent items. Maintenance update.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve.
No, we don't have
We
to
don't
approve
have to
this.
approve
No,
it.
it's just an
Sorry,
update.
my bad.
If we don't have to approve
I
it.
jumped on that one too quick.
All right, then, let's move on to G. Superintendent report, Dr. Fowler, you ready?
Yes, the financial update. Is Ms. Scott there? Oh, there she is. She is here for any questions that you may have.
Questions?
I do have a question. Ms. Scott, just help us understand, I know that we had some funny emails back and forth, just the difference in expenses versus May than last year. Could you reiterate that again?
Sure.
Since we've been out of school, thinking we saved more money.
And that was given to you in an email yesterday, and Ms. Scott can follow up on that.
I I don't know where the numbers came from in the email. They did not match the records that I have, even this one that you currently have. There is a difference of $30-something thousand.
Right.
And part of that is we had a 4% salary increase, so you're gonna have a salary increase anyway. I noticed one line item in, security, $44,000, we usually pay in June, but since we did not have school resource officers at the school, so we went ahead and paid them in May. So it's differences.
Okay.
That, it's just what happens from month to month, is differences going to pay bills.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'll speak to that. Yeah, I had emailed Dr. Fowler, and she responded back with her comment. So the numbers that I'd emailed her were just incorrect. I screwed that up, but so I appreciate you correcting me. You did mention though in that email, in the response about projected fund balance. So I'd just like to elaborate on that just a little bit more as to what, is this a separate, you mentioned some issues maybe with the county in terms of, our working relationship with the county, that our fund balance may not be as substantial this year. Normally, we've been putting back a pretty good bit the past few years. Can you elaborate on that any as to why that may be?
Again, I'm going to defer to Ms. Scott. She had that direct conversation, and I'd rather it go
Okay.
firsthand instead of through me.
Okay.
We actually received information first of June from the county auditor that Duke Power had sued the state or it's a credit, a tax credit for manufacturers, and Duke Power says that we are manufacturing electricity, we are a manufacturer, and we do deserve credit. So it was something going on there with the state. We did not receive any tax apportionment this month because they were waiting to refund Duke Power, and Duke Power's writing another check back. So there was no apportionment this month, and when I contacted Ms. Cowan about it, she said that, all this was going on. We were not aware that we would not get our tax money. We got late tax for manufacturer rebate taxes and homestead merchants inventory. Those were late. She said that the State Department had not sent those. So there's some tax revenue out there that we're still expecting that we usually get by now. So.
Yeah, by now, we're probably still gonna get it, it's just gonna come after July 1 more than likely.
It's possible. And then also, I said you, as the board, had approved this budget with using $600,000 in fund balance. This year it's very, very close. We lost 50 students until the 20 that we have been deducting. Annually, we make allowance for those 20 students because it did kind of level out, but this year was 50 instead of 20. So there's less revenue there. Tax revenue is less, and I'm not sure, because we have had some discrepancies with the county, what that's caused from, or some say, they say it's their software. I don't know, but we have been in discussion with the county.
Mr. Brooks, I thought I saw you. Okay. Ms. Scott, you finished?
Yes, sir.
Any further discussions? Questions? Okay, we'll move on, Dr.
The safety update is in your folder if you have any questions about that.
Have we received the sprayers from the Department of Education yet?
For the bus lights?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet.
No. And they will be sending handheld pump sprayers to get us through the summer school for those bus routes. They guaranteed we would have them by August start date in a webinar yesterday. We'll get a backpack sprayer and then a handheld for each lot.
Who will do the cleaning?
Well, we're working through that, Mr. Tisdale. We'll rely on our bus supervisors in each lot to go over procedures, who's going to be responsible for doing that, where the equipment will be stored, maintaining inventory to make sure we have it on hand at all times. And so those are things we're working through now.
Mr. Evans?
My only thing is, would we not, 2 electrostatic sprayers, is that gonna be enough, or don't we house buses?
For each lot.
That's 2 for each lot.
2 per lot.
And how many buses do we have at each lot?
We've got 8 operating out of Dixie, 5 at John C. Calhoun, and right middle kind of fluctuate somewhere between 15 to 17 based on a couple of special ed routes.
That's Brooks.
Funding to pay for these items, is this coming straight from the state, or is this something that's more of our money that we have not planned on when we play our budget?
No, sir. The sprayers, that cost is covered by the state, is my understanding. Ms. Scott? Yes. And whether or not there is question, because districts are having to spend money before funds come in. But there is supposed to be money from the state for those.
Any further questions? Let's move on.
The next item is the facilities update. And per the discussion at the May board meeting, Ms. Newman is going to be on the phone. I'm going to call her right now in case you have questions for her.
Hello.
Hey, Miss Newman, this is Julie Fowler. How are you?
I'm good.
I've got you on speakerphone in the board meeting. I've got a microphone down by the telephone. Can you all hear? Okay. And I'm going to open this up. We told the board that we would have you available to follow up with any questions that they may have of you, or any participation that they may want you to be involved in any conversation as they talk through some of their discussions. So having said that, Mr. Chair, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Ms. Newman? Go ahead, sit down.
Hey, Ms. Newman, this is Keith Dunn. Just want to make sure you
Yes,
can hear me.
I can hear you a little bit. Somebody might have to repeat the question, but go ahead.
Okay. I just want to make sure that you could hear me. I want to talk
Okay.
just to the whole board and to you, but I would like for you to run a scenario for at least so that I can see the end result, but I want to talk through it a little bit here if you could. And I don't know if you can run that right now while we're obviously just over the phone, but maybe it's something that you can run and then get back through Dr. Fowler to us. But what I was interested in was the capital improvement program without referendum spreadsheet. So that's the one I'm referencing.
Yes.
And then I also had asked Dr. Fowler to provide the board members with another hard copy of that this evening, because I wanted to point some questions or pull some questions and provide some input from that particular sheet. So more or less to the whole board, you know, we talked about, and I know we're not voting on a capital improvement plan tonight, but It's not an action item, but I wanted to run a scenario that maybe it could, as we've discussed, get something, do some projects with the money that we have. We have a substantial amount of money in the capital account. But construct some of these capital projects that we wouldn't be, number one, wasting, things that need to be done, things that wouldn't be wasted by tearing a building down in the next 2 or 3 years or whatever. You know, it may be some sort of old wing or whatever, whether it's at the high school or whatever, but to try and do something proactive. And you know, we talked about, we've been talking about for years several of these projects, but if we keep on talking about it, we're never going to get them going anywhere. So we do have some money, and if we approve, some of this is pending approval of a continuing annual maintenance bond, which will be on the agenda tonight. But let me just move forward with what I would like for you to do, Deanna, or Ms. Newman. On John C. Calhoun, we had a project in there for fiscal year 2023 to do with a security entrance. And I don't know which sheet this is toward for the board members here. It's on through the pack here. But I would like to just, number one, could we see what happens when we move that project up to this coming fiscal year, 2021 fiscal year? So that's one thing.
Okay.
All right. The next thing is on Westwood Elementary School. It's a very similar issue, you know, the security entrance has been talked about a lot. And in every part of our discussions, this has been a major component. But it's also had a $400,000 security entrance. And I'd like to see that just move to the fiscal year 21-22 column. All right, and now Abbeville High School, we had, or you had listed some money for, you know, the issues to do with the toilets and lockers and things like that at the athletic facilities in order of, well, 21-22, and then also in fiscal year 2029, I think the total of all of that was around 800. And I would just like to see that moved into the 2021 fiscal year column. All right? Does that make sense? There's two items there, and just combine them and move them to the 2021 column. All right, and then Dixie High School, and you weren't here or involved in this discussion. This was sometime in January when LS3P was giving us some options, but this was an ad alternate option as part of one of their, I think it was as part of the middle school option, or maybe part of just 8 through 12 scenario, I don't know. But it seemed like a cost-effective idea to solve some of the issues with the weight room that we have over there and the locker rooms, possibly the concessions. All of those areas have issues. And part of the discussion was to have an ad or an option to do a pre-engineered metal building, which is an economical form of construction for large open spaces. And maybe this is one building, or maybe it's two, but you know, renovate. The idea would be to renovate, just light renovate the weight room area as it is now, paint, fix the ceiling tiles and the lights, and open that up for some instructional space. That would be very inexpensive, I think. Move those weights, you know, the whole weight room facility into a separate building. Like I said, maybe a pre-engineered metal building is what LS3P came up with. Put your locker rooms in there. And if all that could be combined with the concession stands, that would be great. I just don't know how the site works out for that. But regardless of that, they had a figure of about $1.5 million in there for that. That
So the
project.
1.5 million was for the, just the locker room area, is that
Okay.
it?
I don't know, it really didn't, I look back at their presentation, it really didn't specify to me what all it included. But,
Okay,
you know, I don't know what that figure is. It may be a $500,000, it may be,
I think it's worth looking at, though.
but it's worth something, and that may have, you know, maybe LS3P or Mr. Reed could provide some information on that later as to what that cost may be, but to try to get a few birds with one stone at Dixie, because that was some of the more needed items there. And keeping in mind, just in talking with the board members here, nothing, and I'm not suggesting moving anything else around on the plan. You know, still doing the electrical upgrades and fire alarms, still doing the paving and sealing and lining. And this is, I'm just looking at High School here, gym floor repairs, press box, DC High School electrical upgrades and fire alarm, all that stuff.
okay.
But the other part of this scenario, and this will be it, that I'd like for you to look at, is assume that we're gonna do annual millage, you know, 32 mills. And I'm thinking that generates around $1.9 million a year, maybe, and I think that's a conservative figure. And I think what we'll see when Ms. Newman runs the numbers is we're gonna go into the hole around fiscal year 2024 if we stay with this plan. But I think we need to see that so that we know we have a target date as to when we may have to inject some cash via a future referendum. But we don't know right
Mr.
now.
Dunn, where does the 1.5 million go, in 2020 or 2020?
I was just sticking it in,
One or
the 2021 fiscal year.
21 fiscal year,
2021, yep.
Yep.
Yeah, this year.
right, okay.
Yeah. Everything was in this
All right.
year except the Westwood security entrance. Put that in
Yes.
next year's.
We put that in the 22 year.
Yeah.
Do you want that in, okay.
We were just
Yeah.
thinking about moving it to 21, 22.
Just move it to 21, 22.
Oh, you want everything in 21, yes, for the,
No.
okay.
No.
So.
All the things I just mentioned in 20, put it into 2021 fiscal year, except for Westwood, put it into 2021, 21, 22 fiscal year.
Correct.
And then assume an annual millage of around 32 mills or just my calculations were about $1.9 million a year we'd generate on annual millage. It may be more, but that seemed like a conservative estimate.
So I have here that 32 mils is 2.2. Is that not right?
It depends on what the value of the mill is at that
Oh,
time.
no, mine is 36. Okay. So you would want, beginning this year, 1.9 approximately. And I'm just going to put that in as a, okay. And we would do the same thing next year.
Yeah, just run it out.
And the same thing the next year. And then, all right, so I just did it for the first 4 years,
Yeah,
just so that we could look at it.
That's a good thing. I was just looking at kind of a conservative figure.
Uh-huh.
About
So,
1.9.
About 1.9.
It's right at 1.9.
and look at the revenue. So, we have, expenditures, 37. Right, we run out of money in 2024.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Brooks?
But that's also, in 2024, one of the reasons that we run out of money is because under that particular scenario, in 2024, we actually begin to do some work at Abbeville. If we didn't do that work at Abbeville, then it would be a different number.
But
Yeah, well, all I'm suggesting is to move those numbers, we'll see where we are. And according to my just rough calculations, we'd need to, if the rest of from 2024 stayed the same as you've got it right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we would, and we can't run deficit spending, but at that point in time, we would have to have an injection of cash. And probably,
Yes.
if this plan
You want to
stayed
do
true.
anything at Abbeville,
Yeah,
correct?
it'd be, a bond referendum, $25, $30 million. If this stayed true, I know that these numbers can change over time, but, and so that was gonna be my next question. And some of these capital projects, were there, some sort of escalation or inflation figured in?
No, all of them are done in current dollars.
Okay.
But also, your revenue is done in current dollars.
Right.
So if you make an assumption about your revenue also increasing if inflation increases as well as assessments increase. But so no, you would have to build in, you'd have to build in a certain amount of inflation. The problem, of course, is it's very difficult to say what inflation is. Given our current situation, prices may be very good next year, or they might actually see some deflation in construction costs.
Mr. Brooks?
Yeah, an observation, can we put a copy of a summary or something on the screen? The public's listening to all of this, and obviously they can't follow it. It's
I
difficult
know.
to follow when you're looking
And
at it.
I'm not in your meeting, so I can't share the screen with you.
Do we,
I can send you this as an email.
do we not have a copy that in the district we can post right quick, just a summary of?
Not with all of the changes that she's just made.
Not that it,
If you,
Right.
Matt,
Ms.
you can't
Newman,
put this
if you-
spreadsheet up.
If you want to email that to Matt Kimsey, it's going to be M as in Mary, K,
Okay.
I, M as in Mary, S as in Sam, E, Y.
You've gone too fast for me.
You've got Matt Kimsey's email. It should come up and populate when you start typing.
I do. So let me make sure that, let's see, here's my 3.
Sorry, I don't
Here I
understand.
have revenue.
We don't either. That was different. That was different.
Okay.
You're not alone.
So the best one to look at, well, I'm trying to think. So I'll go ahead and I will send you this. As you remember, it's a spreadsheet, and I made the changes not in the. I made them on the regular expense. Go ahead and chat for a few minutes, and let me make sure that I've got everything in here.
Brad, go ahead.
I'd been studying what Mr. Dunn had said, and, I think if, what Mr. Brooks said about getting it on the screen and stuff, but if y'all look at that sheet and look at the security, what the main thing is, the security needs at the schools, and then what's been the most common reoccurring comments within the community have been, we need better bathrooms and concessions and press box stuff at the high schools. And I get it, that's not addressing the classroom right now, but considering that we came off of not doing a referendum and the financial state that we're in as a country and as a state, I think with the money that we have in capital improvements, this is a good faith effort of spending money wisely in areas that can show people that we're doing all we can with the money that we have that is set aside for capital improvements and nothing else. And that we can do that, and we can do these things And when it does time for a cash infusion in a few years, then they say, you know, they have spent the money and as best they could. And now, because obviously, I think everybody's learned through LS3P and PPI, when we start with the classrooms, those are going to be big ticket items. So I concur with Mr. Dunn's thought process. Honestly, I didn't, in the beginning, I didn't understand it, because, you know, I think we need to do something now. But I actually agree with taking care of the things that we need to take care of with the money that we have. It's my opinion. She's got it on screen.
Okay.
This is streaming.
And the,
A big
one thing I wanted to add to what Mr. Evans just said, it would be, yeah, it'd be wonderful if we could, if one of these wing replacements that might cost $9 million or $10 million, if we could do that right now. Fact is, we can't do that right now. We don't have the money to do that. If we adopt a plan like this, and this could change some, at least we've adopted a plan and moved down the path, and it'll be something that we can follow as a board. It'll be something that the public can follow, not only just for riding by or visiting the schools or participating in the schools and see what's been done, but they can pull this document up and study it to death if they want to and see that, hey, the school board's adopted a plan and they're moving forward with it. They're spending the money like they said they would, and, you know, maybe hopefully we'll get a larger referendum passed at some point in time, because it will take that to really do significant work to our schools. So,
well, my concern would be that, number one, you know, we didn't have a referendum, not because we didn't want a referendum, because the purpose of the referendum was to allow the people to decide. People hadn't had a chance to make a decision. And I would be concerned about moving in a particular direction without knowing, without the people speaking. And my other concern would be if we run into some monetary shortfalls because of the pandemic. We may not get as much money locally as we've been getting. We may not get as much money on the state level as we've been getting. We may not get as much money on the federal level as we've been getting. Then what would happen if we don't get the monies that we've been getting? Then where are we going to get those monies for to continue keeping things going in the classrooms? And we know that these monies can be moved from the capital improvement budget into where it may be needed. So we need to be prudent. We need to be careful, because if we can, let's say we do some of these things and we spend that money. Once that money is spent, it's gone. And so I would be leery in trying to, now getting the information, I don't have a problem with that, but I would be leery in trying to move in any direction without knowing where we are. Because I've been in the situation in this district where we had to lay off people. And the personnel person had to come in and say, we can't use you because we don't have the money. And so I would caution the board to be very, very careful about spending at this time. Getting information, that's no problem. But spending, I would be careful about it. You want to say something?
Yes, sir. I just want to point out that the bond money that we get has to be spent on capital projects.
Thank you.
The money that the board set aside for capital projects can be moved back and forth, but the bond money has to be spent on.
So just the bond money?
Yes, sir.
So would the bond monies by themselves be enough to do some of the things that we've talked about so far?
Pardon me?
Would the bond monies be enough to do some of the things that we've talked about?
Well, we have been tonight recommending that we borrow up to $2.5 million.
So basically, we could spend up to $2.5 million in doing some of the things that we've talked about. But the other monies in that we have in capital improvement can be moved if we need to move.
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I think what Mr. Dunn is saying is a good starting point. I will keep reiterating that the public has to see something. Before you go in, if we didn't learn anything, if we've got, I think the problem in the past has been we've been robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we've never really been able to take the money that's been allocated to do some of these things because we've been paying ourselves back. So at some point, we've got to take some type of plan, some type of document, and we as board members, we have to sit down and say, okay, this is what we're going to try to do this year. This is what we're going to, just like we do at your house. I'm like Mr. Evans. At first, I didn't quite understand exactly the direction that you were going. I think we also have more information now with some real numbers, if you will. But I think that if we know that we've got toilets that are not working, we've got press boxes that are embarrassing, we've got locker rooms, the things that we can fix, we need to be good stewards of the money. If we got the money sitting there, we need to address those things. And we don't just need to address it. The public, if I wasn't a school board member, I wouldn't know where this money comes from. So, Dr. Fowler, our administrators, when we do these projects, Mr. Reed, we need to put it on our Facebook, we need to put it on our webpage. The public needs to know what we're doing and that we're trying, and that we're trying to squeeze every penny that we can before we go to them. Because like Mr. Dunn said, at some point, if we follow this out, we will have to inject some cash into this budget or to this plan. But if you can see, just like I always say, just like at church, if you can see what's going on, it makes tithing a whole lot easier. And I know it's not supposed to be that way, but hey, that's just the way it is. So, you know, me personally, I think that this is a start. While we do have LS3P and we've got Thompson and Turner, you know, if the number is 1.5 we were talking about, well, if we never really give them a direction of what the scope of work is. So it may be 2 million or it may be 800,000. We don't know. But we've got to start somewhere, and we as board members are going to have to come together and say, okay, I'm willing to compromise here, we're going to compromise there, and I don't think Mr. Dunn is talking about going in and spending, $3 or $4 million on a section of a building that we're talking about possibly demolishing 5 years down the road. So, and I also agree that by doing this, the public, you're transparent. They can see what we're trying to do. They can go by and look at what we're doing. In 10 years, 5 years, whatever it is down the road, when you say, okay, look, we've done so far this, we need $30 million, and this is why. So just as a board member, I just wanted to voice my concern. I do agree that something needs to be done. I think something could have been done 20 years ago. But that's neither here nor there, and we've got to start somewhere, and I think that this is a good way to start.
Mr. Brooks?
I understand completely front-loading some of these projects that are outlined here. I support that. I see you're wanting to be cautious, but we have the fund balance money, and then you have the capital fund money. That's separate pots of money. The fund balance will take care of what you're talking about. If we don't bring in enough revenues, we've got a good pot of money sitting there to carry us through. The capital fund money has been put back and saved for us to do something exactly like what we're talking about doing. So I think it's a good idea to front load some of the projects that need to be done. We have the money to do it. I think we need to finalize adopting what we need to adopt and move on and let people see we're spending the money the way we're supposed to be spending the money.
I agree.
This was not an action item. We will put it on the agenda for next month and bring it back as an action item if that is the will of the board.
With Mr. Dunn's changes to the CIP?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I sent the changes that you just asked for to Matt, but you also have the original.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
So my question would be a clarifying question. Is the board interested in only voting on this scenario, or are we voting also to accept the CIP and close out our work with PPI.
Mr. Dunn?
Well, for one thing, I would suggest that you may have to involve LS3P to some extent and Turner for some of this. So I don't know at what point that comes in. At least these will be budget numbers. And again, I do believe that we should move to adopt the plan. I think that should be an action item.
With the changes.
Yeah, with the changes. But I think that what I was asking for initially is to have Ms. Newman plug these numbers into the model and distribute it back to us so we can see it. And that don't have to be tonight, but I know we've got it on the screen here, but I can't see it too well. But yeah, I don't know at what point we need to have LS3P.
Well, I think that would be the next step, once the board approves it.
And then back off from there, yeah.
Yeah.
So we just leave those numbers kind of as they are, descriptions.
That would be my suggestion.
So basically what we're going to do, we're going to distribute the information that she has sent. And then this will be an action item for our July board meeting.
Right.
Okay.
July what?
July board meeting.
July.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Dr. Clark.
The next item on the agenda is policy BEDG, minutes at board meetings. It is in your packet to reference. We discussed this last month, and the decision was to bring it back this month. Ms. Mims was tasked with taking the minutes according to our current policy. As discussed in the meeting, we sent the draft minutes to Ms. White to review, and the board wanted to have discussion about the draft minutes and the way that they were recorded for last month's 2 meetings. We had a board workshop and we had a regularly scheduled monthly meeting. So with that, Mr. Tisdale, I'm going to turn it over to you, and Ms. White is here to discuss what she saw as well.
Okay, we've all had an opportunity. We basically approved those minutes. Do you have any comments about the minutes that was presented today during the June 23rd meeting that we approved? Basically, we approved what, the July 26th?
May the 20th.
May the 26th.
May 26th. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I know that there's some, a little bit of disagreement, a little bit about the whole budget workshop minutes, but as far as the regular minutes for the meeting, I think those are fine. In my opinion, you do a great job. Those are fine. The only thing about the budget workshop, and the attorney can correct me on this, the only thing that I would say that even though we do those live stream, is that if we, like Mr. Newman presented the PPI's presentation on the capital improvement plan, would it not be a good idea just to attach that to those draft minutes? I mean, whatever plan is discussed, instead of Ms. Mims having to, we don't need all that typed up, but just like attach it to the,
I think that's a good idea.
I mean, that would be at least in a board, for record keeping, you could say, well, what was the capital improvement plan? Well, which capital improvement plan, so if it was attached to these minutes, then that would be some record on file.
You just say see attachment A and then attach.
I mean, because there's a lot of discussion going on. I mean, there's a little concession here. I'm just saying, if it would be, would that help? That's my only.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I disagree with what you're saying. Again, the issue at hand, and I know I was the one that brought this up, or it started with me anyway, but couldn't change the minutes at the meet, or the only way we can do it by this policy is to make an amendment at the meeting. Trying to have us a way to where we could make a correction prior to the meeting. But I'm about tired of arguing about it, to be honest with you. So we can just keep it the way it is, it's fine with me. And at any time, any board member has the privilege to ask that something be included, and we'll just handle it there. I just think for some common edits or whatever, it's easier to do it before the meeting in a red line, but that's just me. So I'm not worried about it anymore.
Okay.
All right, Dr.
May I
Brown.
ask legal, while legal is here, for clarification about a board member asking that something be included in the minutes?
Okay.
Well, I think what Mr. Dunn just said is that that's going to be pursuant to, if that's gonna happen, it'll be pursuant to a motion in the meeting to add something to the minutes, and then the board will vote on it.
Okay.
Prior to approving,
So basically, if there's something that we need to add, or a board member want to add, they would bring it to the board, and then we would have to decide whether it be added or not added.
Correct. Y'all would vote on it. I mean, what what you could do is if it's a typographical error, you could call the board secretary and say that there's a typographical error. But if you're gonna add something or change a word, I mean, that needs to come through a motion. But I think it's better just to let it all come through a motion, so you don't get into deciding what's a typographical error versus
Exactly.
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
That makes it cleaner.
Yeah, I mean, corrections. I mean, if it's a simple thing, yeah.
And what if it is a
I'm
board
good
member
with
asking
just
to
moving.
have a
y'all are.
scripted, something in there about who said what or that kind of thing?
That would be pursuant to a motion, that they would make a
Same
motion
thing.
to do that. If the board thinks, the board will vote on it. And
Okay.
the majority will rule on whether to include that or not.
Perfect, thank you.
Y'all be clear?
And if we don't remember it, then
We
just
don't
vote
vote.
it.
Right,
Then we don't vote.
right, abstain, if you don't remember.
All right. Let's move on then.
The next item on the agenda is public attendance at board meetings, and I think Mr. Tisdale, you wanted to lead that discussion.
Okay. Let me find my notes right quick. Well, I can start out by saying is that our board meetings are not public meetings. Our board meetings are held in the public. And during this coronavirus situation, and you look at this boardroom, look how we're still 6 feet apart. We don't have hardly any space for anybody other than the staff to be here. So we are since the board meetings are different from possibly our county council meetings, I think that we need to consider number one, what our health officials are saying. And when this issue came up, I spoke to Dr. Powell. I said, talk to our area health people. And she talked to Dr. Moore at Abbeville Area Medical Center. And he said that he's concerned because, number one, the coronavirus numbers in Abbeville County is going up. Right now, in the day's paper, I think we have about 87 people who tested positive for it. And so he said that was one of his concerns. He said I would advise against allowing the public because of the uptick in the number of positive cases in Abbeville County over the last 2 weeks. I asked her also to check with some of our WEPAC folks, and based on her research, we only had 2 districts. I think Washoe's have their meetings open up, and they said the reason why they opened their meetings up there because number one, there's not only 5 board members there, and they can spread out and they meet in a large auditorium, and so and normally only one person comes, so that wouldn't be a problem. And so if we had normally we would have 25, 30 people, and getting 25 to 30 people in here would would be a problem. So, I asked Mr. Rhodes, since he's on the South Carolina School Board of Directors, I asked him to check. And who were you able to find, Mr. Rhodes?
I sent out emails to just about every district that's in our region, and I got 5 to 6 replies from different boards, and they have started, most of them have started back to face-to-face like we have, but they have not started allowing the public to attend the meetings yet. But the one thing that they did do, if they had somebody that wanted to do public input from the public, they did allow them to come in and do their 3 to 5 minutes, whatever the district allows, and then ask them to leave, which is not a bad idea either. We could still do that, but they're not opening up to the public yet because a lot of them have the same type boardrooms we do. They don't meet in an auditorium or something like that. One did say that if they had hot items come up, that they did move their board meeting to an auditorium at one of the schools, but they had to do it, give a lot of notice on that so people would know. And then they still only let 1/3 of the capacity come in. So it's still real small. But the 5 that I talked to, and I'm sure I'll hear from more tomorrow because I probably didn't everybody get their emails today or whatever. But they're not letting public. They're still live streaming, Facebook Live and live streaming it as well. And they're just letting public input come in and do their 3 to 5 minutes and then leave. And their board members are going 6 feet apart with their staff, and most of them are not requiring masks to be worn. They're just suggesting if you would like to wear a mask, you can, kind of like what we're doing. So, but that's what I've got from the 5 out of the 11. So,
Okay.
and that was yesterday and today.
Okay, so basically, based on the information that we have from the medical people and from the surrounding school boards, is it okay for us to continue? Mr. Brooks?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to say that the meetings are publicly held meetings of the school board. All right? They're not private meetings. All right? Even though they're not public meetings, they are publicly held meetings.
They're held in public, yes.
Right. So the public has every right to attend their meetings for their local, whatever, county, city, school boards. There's been a couple of things mentioned. We can hold our meeting anywhere we want to. We can hold an auditorium, and you can do 6-foot social distancing as much as you want to. So we're not bound to meet in this boardroom. But my opinion is the public has the right to be able to attend the meeting. And as far as public input, I think that needs to be immediate, where our folks have the right to have public input.
Okay. I want to listen to Attorney White. What's your take on this?
Well, and of course, when I look at things, it's from a legal liability perspective. So what I would say is it's y'all's decision what you do, right? I mean, I think to protect the board and the district from liability, we need to go with what DHEC's guidelines are at this point for having meetings, right? Whatever the state is saying in that regard, that if you're going to have a meeting where there's going to be more than 10 people in attendance, what you should require as far as social distancing and as far as the wearing of masks and so forth. If you're going to open the meeting at this point up such that the public can attend, I suggest that we have a waiver that they sign, that they're coming, they understand that in a group of people, there is a possibility that someone in there is infected with COVID, and that they agree to release any claims against the school district should they contract COVID. We're doing that with our athletes, with the assumption of the risk form before students are allowed to play sports, and so I think that's something that you would want to do to protect yourself. Because with these lawsuits, somebody's going to have to prove where they got it.
That's right.
It wasn't at the grocery store, it was at the school board meeting. That's going to be hard to do, but we want to protect ourselves from even being sued, right? So if we have this waiver and hold harmless agreement, I would feel better about it. But again, I think we do need to comply with whatever DHEC is saying as far as the guidelines in terms of social distancing and so forth. In this room, I was just counting how many of us are in here now. I think to put any more people in here is not going to comply with what DHEC is saying. And that again, if we get sued, we can't use the defense of, well, we did what DHEC told us to do. We're basically saying we kind of did our own thing, and now somebody's alleging they got it before me. So that's the advice that I would offer here.
Mr. Brooks, Mr. Evans.
I understand what you're saying, and I do concur with the liability side of it. I do feel, though, that it is important that we do allow public input. Our policy states that each person has 3 minutes, a total of 15, so that would be 5 people. They can, one at a time, whoever signs up for whatever's on the agenda that night. Our administration is sitting in here tonight. They don't have to be in here. If a person is signed up, they could be stationed outside, wear a mask, get a temperature check, sign the waiver, come in, speak for their 3 minutes, and leave. I do think that'll be one step into inviting the public back, except for public. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Down, go ahead.
I was gonna say the exact same thing. Can we have this, because we would need to unsuspend our public input policy. When we have to do that, can we do that with, and I don't know, would we need to modify the policy any to cover?
It's going to be the same rules for public
Okay.
participation, and what we need to do is just, in light of this, the waiver, but that's not going to be something you're always going to have, right? I mean, that's something you could do without having to amend the policy on
Yeah.
public participation.
So that's what I'm thinking is a step. I get what everybody's saying, this room should not be enough, and especially with the technology that's in this room, in order to live stream, it would be difficult to move to another site, if not almost impossible. But either allow them in or allow them to call in. And kind of let
Or
them.
give them the option. You're
Or
gonna-
give them the
when
option.
they come in, you're going to sign a waiver.
Right.
They want to call in, that's fine.
And you may not have anybody calling, but you give people that option, especially with things that may be on the agenda for next month. I think it would be important that we at least make that step, because I'm seeing where others are doing that. That would be very important.
Okay. Mr. Brooks?
The link for the live stream, what's the reasoning for taking the link down when the meeting over with, where people can't, let's say, Friday, click the link and watch the meeting if they didn't get to watch it tonight?
I'll let Mr. Kimsey follow up after I say anything, if there's anything from your end to add. But the reason that those were live streamed was not to take the place of minutes. We still keep minutes of the meeting. It was to allow the public participation in the meeting. And so those have been, at the conclusion of the meeting, then the minutes take the place of that. So, Mr. Kimsey, you want to talk to storing that or saving that, accessing it?
Well, it's not that difficult. YouTube provides, especially unlimited storage for our videos. There's no expiration that I'm aware of, and it's just a link. We just changed it from private to public, and post a link where we want the meeting. You can put a link to the board meeting video next to the relevant minutes or agenda on the website, and that would just take time. Somebody would have to do it. You have to go through, just add all those links to the website. That was what.
Could we do that going forward?
It doesn't make a difference to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't say go back and try to do all the ones that we've already had.
But here.
Yeah, here, tonight, just say, okay, we're gonna have a link where you can watch the video.
At your leisure.
Just from here, why not?
You can just do it all the time, especially if you have unlimited storage.
Yeah.
As far as
It's
I know,
not
there's,
costing us anything.
there's no, I can verify that.
I would verify that because, we're either going to keep them all indefinitely or we're going to say we're going to keep them live for a year. Whatever we're going to do, I want it to be consistent with all meetings.
Well, that would be a policy change, like say.
That is
I-
correct.
I don't want to keep them forever, but at the same time.
I think we need to say how long, like a year, for the year in which the meeting occurs.
And our board policy doesn't even speak to videos or video in board meetings.
Right, because the
or
policy
anything.
was before
That's
all
correct,
that
that's
was
right,
in place.
right.
Mr. Adams?
I was just gonna say, I think that plays into the part of being transparent. If we're trying to be transparent and the public wants to know what's going on, if we've got technology, use it. Use it. If we've got people in place that can do it, let's do it. And, I actually think that a lot of people told me that the live stream is better because they can hear everybody. So if we've got technology in place, let's use it.
So, would you like to entertain a motion?
You can't, it's not an action
It's
item,
not-
we'll bring
it's
it
not
back
on the
next month.
agenda.
We can make
Maybe
it
have it
Can we
next
just-
meeting.
next week. The next meeting.
Well,
Mr. People?
I move that we make.
No, you can't
Can't
do
do it
that.
right now.
It's not an
It's
action
it's
item.
not an action item.
Mr. Brooks?
I don't know why it has to be an action item, why we can't just say this is the will of the board.
Right, just start doing it.
Start
Do it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. All right, so we
There
don't
doesn't seem
have,
to be any objection to it, so I say.
I don't think we're talking about,
Mr. Peoples trying to say something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
well, wait a minute, let's see.
Let's,
Go ahead, Mr. Peoples.
What I was saying was that can we put this on the agenda for, at the next meeting for an action item?
That can happen. Let me hear from,
but I was just wondering, since we don't have public input at this time, and the reason we have things listed as an action item is to give the public an opportunity to speak about action items. But at this point in time, we're not having the public input. So can we entertain a motion that's not on the agenda?
You have
Unless it's
to
an
amend the
emergency.
agenda.
But we'd have to amend the agenda prior? Is that what you're
You
saying?
You can amend the agenda at any time.
But it gets into, it has to be declared an emergency.
Emergency.
Yeah,
Two-thirds vote to
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
where you get into the point.
It can wait then.
why don't we do, like, if it is a consensus, we're not voting, but if it's a consensus that we go ahead and do it, why don't we just do it and move on?
That's fine.
That's
And this
it.
isn't one of those things that you're required to vote
Yeah,
on.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Well, I'm good with it.
okay.
I think we were speaking about two
everybody's
things. So
pretty
we're
much in
talking about
agreement.
allowing public input, and we're talking
not a
about the
big deal.
videos up there, or we're still
It is a
saying
big deal.
public
People
input
won't see it.
suspended, and we have to unsuspend that next meeting, which is
We'll have to
action.
do that.
That's an action item.
That's an action
Okay.
item.
The public
This is just the
input.
video, yeah.
Just the
Right.
Public input, that would be an action item.
Mr. People?
We did have two things on the floor, what Mr. Rhodes had said concerning what other districts are doing, and having a person that want to come and speak for 3 minutes and then go back out. We haven't really addressed that.
That'll have to be done at the next meeting as
Yeah, our
an
next
action
meeting
item.
As an action item.
Yeah.
Okay.
But not, so what would we need to do outside of putting it, I mean, do we need to put this on the agenda as an action item and then vote on it and then allow people, if it's voted up, then allow people to come in?
Yeah.
That's what we'd have to do.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that it be the very first item on our very next agenda.
Okay.
That way, if next month someone wants to come
Yeah.
in,
Mhm.
they can go ahead and be prepared, they can sign up.
Okay,
We'll have to wait for.
okay, all right, I agree with you. Okay,
All right.
let's move on then.
The next item is, you have already received this, it's an update. After the approval of, first of all, let me back up. We shared the administrative rule for policy IIAR last month on the agenda before the, as an information item, before the action item of the technology initiative was approved. So after that approval, we went back and revisited IIAR, and you have the updates for that. You received those, and they are attached here, so that is for your information.
Thank you.
The next item is plans for the reopening of school, and I shared these with you today, answering a question via email. We are hard and fast at work, and we had groups in schools meeting today, including stakeholders, SIC committee members, and we have a district-wide principals meeting on Thursday of this week, and we will be fleshing out some more details, talking about the latest guidance. And I have given you all a tentative date, our target date of July the 21st to release a final plan. You'll be privy to that information, to the survey information, as stakeholders will be in advance of that, as we are holding meetings and vetting the plan as a working document. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that. I also shared information regarding summer school, and right now I can give you an update on that. There are 35 students who have said that they will be coming. 15 of those have requested bus transportation. It's at one location, so we've got buses going everywhere. We've got 3 students at John C. So it's right now we're predicting, and we may have more students. We're still contacting families, but right now we're projecting we're going to need 4 classrooms and 2 buses. So I will keep you posted on that. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Dunn, go ahead.
Just something I watched some of Superintendent Spearman's press conference yesterday, and so she brought about some things that I'd read about. Some things kind of struck me too, and this is one of those things. And it seems like many districts, or some districts around the state, you know, they were set up already for an e-learning or virtual anyway. This is kind of new, if I'm understanding right, for Apple County School District. So my concern in moving forward is, and she spoke to this, and so I just want to make sure I'm voicing this concern of mine as one board member, is that teachers may not be trained in the area of virtual learning. Not saying that they can't be trained, but it is unfair to ask them to participate in it face-to-face and virtual. I don't see how in the world they'd ever keep up with it. And that was the point she was making, and it really struck me. I can see where the virtual learning experience for a teacher has to be totally different than face-to-face if you're trained in that area, and to try to manage both. So I'm just wondering, and you don't have to answer this right now, but I'm hoping we're really thinking about the fact that a lot of people are probably going to choose that route, or some people may be forced into that route. But how are we going to set that up? You know, with homebound instruction, I kind of know how that works. Like if you have an injury or something, a student needs to stay home several weeks at a time. You know, the thought process kind of more like that, where you've got several instructors who are trained in that area, or is it, well, we don't really know yet. And so that was a concern beyond all of the help. I think that I'm sure, I don't know if we can say this as a board, but we've got to, I think, make an assertion that we won't, I mean, face-to-face is our prime objective. That's what we want, or at least that's what I'm thinking we want. I just think we need to say that that's our objective, if that's our objective, and let the public know, because people are making plans.
Absolutely.
People
Well,
making plans.
what we're doing is, I mean, we've been very public in saying, yes, we want students back in school. That's optimal. We're going to do everything we can do. The details of what that looks like, complying with the legal ramifications and all of the other things, with student health and safety and well-being being our number one objective, what does that actually look like? So I cannot wait to share the survey results with you, especially the teacher survey results, because teachers feel far more equipped to deliver e-learning than I would have thought that they would have. We have given them an opportunity to give us very specific needs that they have in feedback on training and professional development. We have already started mapping out a professional development calendar that has all of that in it so that those teachers will be ready. And actually, the last time I looked at it, and of course I shared with you all that it's closed, but it has just closed. But the last time that I looked at it, the preference was right at 50% that teachers preferred to teach a hybrid model, which would mean some e-learning and some face-to-face, than they did straight e-learning or just straight face-to-face. So we have been very surprised by the results that we're seeing, but I think that it has given us a true picture. And the reason that's important to know is our intent's to open schools. Who is going to be here to teach? What does the teaching force look like? What do the number of students look like? That impacts our bus routes, that impacts our meals, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, in fact, I had a call after an SIC meeting today. A parent wanted to know, is our survey feedback really going to be considered? The answer to that, if anybody asks you, is yes, absolutely, which was the whole reason that we sent the survey out.
Mr. Evans?
With what you just said about the 50% model, teachers preferring a hybrid model, is that going to guarantee that this is revert back to our last board meeting, that both schools, middle school specifically, will offer the same classes, even if it has to be virtual?
I'm not ready to share any of the details of what all of that looks like, but we are, everything is on the table, and we are trying to incorporate every single thing that we know is putting students first.
That way they have all the options, yeah.
Mr. Brooks?
In Ms. Spearman's speech, she said that teachers would not be expected to do a dual duty. They would not be expected to do face-to-face and virtual. Is that what we're thinking? Teachers you're either going to be face-to-face or you're going to be virtual.
So again, those are details that we're working through right now because we're looking at numbers. And there are different models that you can use. So for example, if you had 4 third grade teachers, maybe 3 of them are delivering face-to-face and 1 is doing e-learning. Or another model could be that we're using live stream, and Mr. Kimsey and I are working through the broadband and seeing what the state's going to give us for that, but actually using live stream so that a teacher doesn't teach a lesson twice. That lesson that she's teaching face to face is videoed for the purpose of e-learning. So there are a lot of different ways to do that. We've even looked into using a 360-degree camera to capture that for e-learning as well, so that the burden's not on the teacher, and that is our intent.
If I could answer that, if you don't mind. We have to be careful with the definition. You will hear online learning, you'll hear remote learning,
That's a
you'll hear
great
hybrid,
point.
and so it gets very confusing. To be honest, I've had to do some research. So I want to make sure that we're clear. A true virtual online, you may have students who never attend school. That's true online virtual. And so when a teacher's teaching that, they are dealing with that group of students the whole time, and they're responsible for them. So you could not deal with those students who are at home all the time and dealing with your students that are in class. So I think that's the intention of that. Now, you will also hear about an A-B schedule or something, and in that case, that could be where half of my 25 students, half of my class comes in one day and half of my class comes in the other. That is possible that I'm doing both. There's still my 25 students. I'm seeing half today and half tomorrow.
tomorrow. So I might be, as Dr. Fowler said, I might be broadcasting that to be like, so I'd still be responsible. So I don't want you to think that if a teacher is seeing some of their students today, but they also are putting that online for the students that are not with them today, but will be with them tomorrow. Do you see what I'm saying? So you won't be doubled. At the end of the day, you won't have had to touch base with 2 different groups at the same time. Does that make sense? So it's a little, there are a lot of different models, so I just wanted to kind of say we have a lot more details in that.
Go ahead.
Okay. Let's say with the A/B schedule, kids here today, some at home tomorrow. The preparation on the teacher, what I'm going to do in class, let's say I've got 13 kids here, 13 kids at home, right? What I'm teaching in class today, how are the ones at home? Understand the video, they're watching it by video, but the classwork that we do, they're responsible for the very same. So we don't have to prepare separate lessons.
That is correct.
It's whatever's in the classroom on that day.
This
is
half
what
is
the
doing
folks
it
at home.
at school, the other half is doing it at home, and then tomorrow that flip flops, they're all
Okay.
responsible. So you're right, and back to Mr. Dunn's thing, there's a lot of training to go on because it really changes how you teach in the sense that you're really thinking about planning that whole lesson and putting it together in such a way that really when it's almost that, there are a lot of details to that, and we've been looking at a lot of the training, so that there's a lot to it, and we know that our teachers have as many questions as you do, and so we're going to work through that as much as we can. Again, trying to, if we can get students in there face to face, as we said, that's our heart, it's all of our heart, but if we can't get them all in there at one time, how do we work that? But we will continue, it'll be ongoing training. I don't know that we will feel like we're at 100% in all this. We will continue and to get students ready and teachers ready and continue to modify that as things go on. So we understand the question.
Mr. Rose, go ahead.
One of the concerns I'm in here about the AB part of it is those single parents that work. What are they going to do with a child that's not at school that day? I mean, daycare is going to be a major issue for a lot of our communities, because me and my wife both work, but I mean, we don't have any kids in school, but I mean, there's a lot of people out there that both parents work days. It's not like, one works during the day and one works at night. There might be a few, but there's also a lot of single parent families out there. Are we going to try to plan something somewhere that we can, is there a daycare type thing that we can do, or if that's not an option, that's going to be an issue whether their kids even come to school, period.
Right, absolutely. It's a concern of ours as well. There's a ripple effect to everything that you do. And we have sat and gone through model after model. What are the pros and cons? What is most optimal for students? And, we're down to asking and answering questions about is it better to keep students safe and to have the number that's recommended by the CDC and DHEC and state superintendent guidelines, or especially following the numbers? And we're going to have a phase, we're going to have a chart that shows what's happening in our community and what the cases are and that kind of thing to drive some of that. We actually have superintendents have a meeting with DHEC Thursday morning at 8:30, and we are supposed to get some more guidance and direction. So again, I think it is, and what we've asked principals to do, principals are to bring Thursday when they come, how many students, looking at their class rosters, it's hard for high school to do because they haven't made schedules yet, but they know their class rosters, they know their maximum size. How many desks can you get in the room that are 6 feet apart? And if you put every child on that roster in there, how far are they socially distanced? And to work through that and what it really looks like. Part of what is hard is that our facilities are older and our class size, our classroom square footage is smaller than a lot of schools in the state. And so where some may be able to socially distance 6 feet apart and have 15 desks in a classroom, we may only be able to have 11. So we're working through that, and we're not making guesses. We are using hard data to drive all those decisions. And that's why it's so important that through the steps, we will be bringing, you all will have that opportunity. You know, parents need to have a voice in that. When you see the survey results, again, what I have seen at a glimpse is that overwhelmingly, yes, parents want their students back in school, but even more parents than that are concerned that the significant safeguards are in place. So we will be sharing all of that data, and I think it'll help answer some of those questions and drive a lot of the decision making.
Go ahead.
I would like to commend the teachers really, because South Carolina now is in the red zone in terms there's been an uptick in COVID-19, and it has also been stated that it was that the elderly were susceptible to it. Now it is showing that younger people are contracting COVID-19. So you got a mixed bag going on, and almost like a fruit salad. The state, the principals, and so forth, trying to figure out what to do in this scenario. And once they work out one scenario, then that COVID-19 goes up, and then it changes the whole pot, and they got to go back and redo it. So it may be something even from a high level that they're going to have to either give some funds to the district to do what Mr. Rose is talking about for daycare. You know, those kinds of things. So we got a different, just like we're talking about virtual teacher versus one-on-one. There's a whole lot of changes. And as someone said earlier, it's a new normal coming down. What used to be is not working. And I have a child who is working in that area big time. I said that's the next thing coming down the pipe is virtual schooling. So 10 years from now, maybe what we're talking about may be a thing of that particular day.
Mr. Brooks?
I have a question about the parent survey. You said you shared that when you validate the data. And my question on validating the data, it's like for my child, my wife received the survey and I received the survey. We were not together. We both did the survey, right? Will both of our surveys be taken into account, or are you only doing one survey per student? And if you choose to do one per student, how do you choose which one to do? Because I'll be honest, because my wife and I were not beside each other, we didn't feel that exactly the same. You know?
We would have to use a timestamp and go by.
So you're only going to do one
go by
per
the
student?
timestamp. That was the directions of the survey, was one per child. You know, it's a you know, it's the case where I understand that scenario, and I also understand the scenario of, you know, a family that has 2 children and 5 surveys came in.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So you don't, let's say you have a household with 3 kids, and they did one for each child. Are you only going to take one survey total from the family? Or are you going to take one per child from that household?
One per child. And the reason we did that is because you may have 3 children, and one of those may have special circumstances that the others don't, and you may decide as a parent you're going to keep that child home for e-learning and send the other 2, which is why it was set up that way.
Any further questions? Okay, we need to move on to discussion action items.
Before we leave the superintendent's report, this is not information in there, but just so that you all know, Ms. Mims will be following up with you to let you know that the law conference in August will be August 21st and 22nd. It's going to be virtual, and she will be sending that information out to you. The other thing that I want you to know is that I, with some help from community members, nominated Dr. Betty Jo Hall for SCASA's Lifetime Achievement Award, which is the most prestigious award that SCASA awards. And she was honored at a dinner last week. And Dr. Hall, her husband, accompanied me to that dinner. And he gave public comments that were very moving and very touching, and it really put Abbeville County School District in cast a very favorable light, and I thought that that was very timely, and I wanted to share that with you all. So if you see him out in the community, that you could share that with him. So it was very well deserved, and we are very proud as a school district.
Okay, well, thank you for thanking them, Dr. Hall, and making the nomination, because without the nomination, her opportunity to receive that award, she wouldn't have received it, or the family would not, and she would not have been recognized.
Thank you for that. It was a team effort.
Okay, we're down to H, discussion action items, seal coating contract update.
Yes, and I'm going to let Mr. Reef walk you through this. As you know, we brought this to you last board meeting, and with the price tag of $325,000. And I think Mr. Reef at that meeting shared with you all that he was meeting the following Thursday, or the Thursday after the Tuesday board meeting, with the actual engineer and contractor. And you can see where that number came in much lower than what we originally anticipated. And so what we are, Mr. Reap and this team of experts, based on their work, is recommending is that we add Abbeville and Dixie, and then the Abbeville baseball parking lot at Right Middle, to go ahead and seal coat and crack repair as well. And so the new total with everything in the list, the 7 up above, and then adding those 3, would be $124,525 total for the project. He also has had a verbal cost estimate, and I'm looking at Mr. Reap, he's shaking his head yes, that to pave Long Cane would be between $250,000 and $300,000. So if you were interested in moving in that direction and go ahead this year and pave one school, then we certainly would not spend the $15,000 to seal coat and crack repair and alligator Long Cane. So with that, we'll take these 2 individually, but with that, I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Reed for any questions that you may have of him.
Okay, Mr. Evans first.
I just had a question. So the total was $325, and that includes doing Long Cane. Help me understand the last thing that she fellow just said.
Well, we talked the seal coating. I'm gonna recap the whole thing.
We'd rather go ahead and pave it, right?
Seal coating buys time. And when you don't have time, we can buy with 10 properties. So if you chose, the board so chose to pave a property this year, the whole left side of Long Cane is allocated, 100%. There's hardly 3 feet that you can stand that pavement is not broken up. And if you go to these properties, you can always tell where the buses go. Left side at Long Cane, left side at Diamond Hill, right side of Cherokee, because it's inverted. You see the bus trail. So that's one of the main reasons the left side of Long Canyon is so bad. Right side, not so bad, it's Carter. And there's vast wasteland pavement there. Now that's the one that's got the big drive-through center section loop that cars don't even touch it. It's just,
So how does this affect the other list? I guess that's what I'm understanding. The other schools wouldn't get done?
no, they would be
Everything.
seal coated, crack filled, pothole. For instance, Abbeville's got one pothole near the lunchroom, we put a
Yeah.
pretty good sized Volkswagen.
And right middle's drive.
Yeah, right middle drive. And you know, this number, now, I think the 325 was an engineer's point of view, and then when we once we hired a contractor, you brought his opinion in, and they have different ways they can fix things. So a fair amount of the work that will be done as far as getting up alligator repair, and alligator repair itself is done at right middle. Those turns, where the cars just make a continual while they're out. So, and honestly, I don't think that the board gave me a blank check to spend. Let's just go see if we can spend the whole 325. Y'all know better than that. But at right middle and Long Canyon, and in between myself and the engineer, there may be more. If we don't think it looks good, we may have to do a little more. Does that sound fair?
What's your recommendation, Mr. Reed?
If y'all, now, another thing, I like to give all options I can. You could pave half of Long Canyon now. Pave the left side.
Okay.
It's just according to how much money y'all want to spend.
Okay.
That's what it boils down to. I know there's other issues in other places, and I serve at the will and pleasure of the board through the superintendent. If you want to start the paving process now,
Which we would have to go through the process to do
Right.
that. So we don't even know that the number of 250 to 300 to do all of it is an actually accurate, spot-on number. That's,
We could do half. I mean, that's still another.
because in procurement, y'all understand why we did a verbal, because if somebody commits to a price, they could have an unfair advantage. So we got an outside person to give a verbal quote on that property.
Mr. Dunn?
So the Long Canyon primary, the estimate,
Yes.
when you say paving, is that patching and paving?
No,
Is
the
that,
250, excuse me, I'm sorry.
yeah, the 250 to 300?
That's paving that whole property.
It includes the patching of the alligator spots, I'm
It'll come
assuming.
up, it'll have to be milled.
Yeah.
If you're gonna pave.
They're gonna mill them about 6 inches or so, probably.
You'll have to, any alligator, cracks okay, but
Yeah.
stress cracks and seam cracks are okay, but alligator paving,
Yeah.
if you pave over it.
You're gonna have it
It'll break up.
Exact same.
So, well, my question would be, can we, what I would call full depth patch the alligator areas and then seal coat the areas that look fine? And what would that cost, or has that been looked at?
At Long Canyon.
Yeah, or is it just the patching is gonna be tremendously expensive,
Y'all left side of Long Canyon is the whole
the
thing.
whole thing? And that's most of this cost?
The bus loop,
And the teacher part?
teacher parking, and then advance over, I don't want to skip around, I know we're dealing with Long Canyon, but going over to right middle, the baseball parking lot, it makes Long Canyon look great. It's really, really bad. That pavement was probably put down over unsecure ground, not packed ground.
And that was where
Because that
now?
parking lot has some of the least traffic there is, and it is bad, bad.
So it doesn't sound like there's a good option to pave some of Long Canyon. It sounds like it.
Unless you did half. You could do the whole bus loop, of course, those three schools are split
Yeah.
in two by the building.
Could you do half and seal coat the rest?
Yes, yes,
Where it all,
yes. You would have,
yeah, instead of just having new blacktop on one area patched
And
and do
another-
nothing to the other, but at least seal coat the rest, it wouldn't be that expensive.
and another thing, at Long Canyon, they have cement curtains on the curbs. So it'll have to be milled to get down to where you can put that pavement back level with the curbs. Now, for some reason, along came different contractor, different set of plans, same design, they don't have curbs. And long, and not downhill.
You already had a contractor, we didn't approve the contract, or did we?
We did,
Yes.
and then we just added.
For the seal coating, yeah.
We just added Abbeville and Dixie, the front of Dixie, because the back still belongs to the state.
So that's what we're asking. We're bringing you those three to add to it because it's more cost effective than we thought. So it would be to add Abbeville, Dixie, and the baseball parking lot at Right Middle. And then it would be to, if you decide not to seal coat Long Cane, or if you only wanted to seal coat half and pave half, then we would deduct that. We have not finalized that contract because we're bringing it back to you to say we can do this much more cost effective. And since you already approved the 325, then should we go ahead and pave Long Cane? And that's the real question.
Now, my question is now, if we got 325,000 approved, and we're saying between 250 and 300 just to pave the left side,
No, that's
No,
the
that
whole
was the whole
thing.
thing.
that's the
All of it. From
right
front-
and left
Right
side?
and left, yes, sir.
If we pave Long Cane, it's only gonna cost us $109,000 to clear coat and fix the alligator and everywhere else.
Yes.
Well, you can't fix the alligator. I mean, basically, like, I know what he's talking about. When you got that alligator and you
You gotta dig it up.
you can't patch it. You
Yeah.
just, you take it up and start all over again from scratch.
And some of Right Middles has got to come up.
Hmm.
Some of Right Middles has got to come up. Now, they do have a new alligator repair where it's not unstable. You got various levels of alligator
But it-
repair, and if it's totally unstable, it's got to come up.
But now, right now, most times when you see the alligator and you see this,
That's right.
you know, what I'm saying, the pavement's not flat. You got low places and high places.
And it's the
And the only way to
regions.
remedy that is to recompact it.
And a lot of that Long Cane is the exact size of a bus tire.
Okay.
You can see.
So what would happen if we did the left side and then seal coated the right side? And
It would look, to the public, that would look.
you couldn't tell the difference from the road. But I mean,
If
we
the right side's
would be making a good, not a repair, but we would be doing something, improvement there. It's not a patch.
And then the board may choose to go to another property that's worse than the right side of Long Cane.
And then-
To do it next.
Yes.
Well, I think I mean, in my opinion, that's what we need to do, just do that left side and then do the right side, seal coat it. And then go from there, see how much money we have left and do what we can.
Mr. Brooks, go ahead.
I'll second that motion.
Yeah?
That was a motion.
Hold on.
Do you want me to make a motion out of that?
Provide a bid in relation to the right side of Long Cane. I'm just, you're saying the baseball parking lot is in terrible shape. Okay, so if we don't do the right side at Long Cane, what's saying, why can't we use some of that over? I'm just asking.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that's totally up to the board. You need, the left side of Long Cane is bad.
Right,
The parking lot at, right middle of the baseball parking is bad.
right. So I don't know that I wanna say, I wanna spend money seal coat the parking lot that you're saying is worse than the one we're saying we're gonna asphalt. Does that make sense?
But now, how much is the parking at the baseball field used? Is it used year-round?
No.
It's
No.
just during baseball season?
Yes.
And is there not another area?
That's a
right
low
now that
priority
you
then.
paved other than baseball?
Yeah, front drive.
Mhm.
Could we not think about that other than that baseball park?
That's right.
Honestly, we added it back to include it. It wasn't on my list of priorities. No offense to the baseball park, and it wasn't. Because it's not used.
It's just-
But the critical places are the most used places.
When
That's
is that
exactly
original
right.
325?
And again, back to, I know we're bouncing around a little, back to right middle, you know, we're in a position, to be good stewards of money, but we gotta get right middle fixed as best we can. So there may be, once we start some alligator repairing, we may go beyond repair and have to mill it up. We can't have it half done. So it may call, you know, this number we have here is what we hope it's going to be. But I'm understanding from the board with the 325, we could do a little more. Am I right? If right middle needs more repair than what we've seen right now. See, the foundation up under that crack repair or that alligator has got to be solid.
I think if the cost is gonna be more than 325 total, that has to come back.
No, not more than 325 total.
Oh,
Just
okay.
maybe a little more than the 124, 325.
Oh, okay.
I just think before you address that baseball parking lot, because you also have a softball field there too, you're talking about baseball, softball, and they all park in that front parking lot. And we can just put some stuff there, so they're probably gonna need, that the front needs to be addressed before.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree.
So, Mr. Taylor had a motion earlier.
Did I put that in the motion?
If you had said, I'll make a motion before you said what you said, it would have been a good motion.
Okay, but before we get to motion,
You confused me.
before we get a motion, we want to get a motion to do what?
Mr. Taylor?
Say what you just said, Buster.
Move that we pave the left side at Long King
Okay,
and seal coat the right side.
okay.
Get the price on that. Let's just go ahead and do it.
So,
Take care.
And take care of everything else.
Yeah. Would-
That'll go, y'all understand, that'll go through the procure process and we'll get.
Yeah.
We'll go to
Yes.
Steve-O and do
Yes.
bids and take a little while.
But now, this is not in the motion, okay? I feel like the least important places right now are the ballpark parking, baseball parking. I think the most used places should be addressed first, the most critical areas.
I agree with that.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Do we have a pretty much?
I need to, what?
Don't
I need
ask
to
for
know.
discussion because I don't know how to explain it.
Let's get a motion on the floor in a second so we can move on.
Yep.
The motion is to
Pave the left side of,
left side of.
Long Cane Primary,
Mhm.
and seal coat and repair alligatoring at the rest of the places using the baseball parking lot last, right?
Exclude, yeah, it had to
Exclude
be
it
at least
or leave it
priority.
last.
And if more needs to be done, right in the middle,
Do it.
Do it.
You got that, okay.
fix it right.
Okay.
I don't think that's clear from Mrs. For
That's still not clear
Ms.
from me.
Mills,
Let's see.
Do you have a better way you'd like to hurt him to put that?
Just go fix our stuff and make it right.
But I mean, the way the motion reads, you understand what we're asking
Yes,
for?
yeah, I got it.
All right,
Yeah, 'cause it's complicated.
Okay.
all right, I'll make it. I'll make a motion that we pave Long Cane Primary School the left side only. Seal coat and repair all alligatoring at the remaining, what would that be, 9 schools?
Well, it's already a motion.
Yeah,
Oh.
if he's already made a motion,
You
we
can't
have
do
a
that.
second, we can't just go on to the
Do we
next.
have a second?
We
Yeah,
got-
Brad second.
Yeah, Brad seconded.
If we wanna do anything with the
We good.
motion, we got, you can't
That's
Okay, well,
basically
we
what
need
it
to know
is.
what the
That
motion
is the same thing that I
is.
made.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Taylor made a motion, he made it very, I think everybody understands, the left side of Long
Long
Cane's
Cane.
gonna be paved.
Okay.
Right side's gonna be sealed.
Okay,
Right middle's gonna be paved, and the places that need to be paved, and other areas that needs more attention is gonna get that. And the baseball field parking lot's off the table unless we have any money left over.
That's
And all
right.
the other places will be addressed, seal coated projects will move forward.
That's right.
And he was gonna go through the procurement department, that's not his motion. Left side Long Cane, right side seal coated, right middle next, and then the other schools seal coated alligator spit.
Okay, so it has been moved
Kinda
and
right,
seconded.
Brett.
Yeah. It's been seconded.
It has been moved and seconded that we pay the left side.
I wouldn't repeat all that.
I wouldn't repeat it.
You don't want to repeat?
You don't have to.
No, don't
Okay,
repeat
does
it.
all of you understand?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, all those in favor of what that, we've already discussed. Yeah, so all those in favor of the motion, let it be known by raising your hand.
Thank you.
Those
Let's go to
opposed?
something else.
All right, let's move on.
Move on.
Landscaping.
The next item on Mr. Reed's report for action is the landscaping contract. And Mr. Reed, do you want to address that?
Yes, ma'am. We, in the original RFP with McAllister's, with RFP, we could renew up to 5 years with McAllister's landscaping for our landscape needs, which is comprehensive, includes everything to do with bushes, trees, and grass, sports fields, and we've had a lot of compliments.
You look real good.
Good compliments from the public.
I've been well pleased with what I see. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the contract for
Landscape.
McAllister's landscaping contract.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the McAllister's landscaping contract. In discussion of this motion, all those in favor of approving the McAllister's landscaping contract, let it be known by raising your hand. Those opposed, the motion carries. All right, the continuing resolution.
Okay, the next item is the continuing resolution. We've talked about this at several other board meetings, and in your board packet, you have a definition of that, and it is essentially us operating under our 2019-20 budget until an official budget for the 2021 year is passed by the General Assembly. And we reached out and asked legal when we were preparing for this a couple of months ago to ask what needs to be in the resolution, and the motion that you have before you is what Ms. White said was needed and to pass a continuing resolution. So if there are any questions, Ms. Scott and I are here to answer any of those.
Dr. Fowler, this definition up here of the resolution, what you want the motion to read, how we want, I would personally, as one board member, like to have this publicly put
Yes.
out there. Because this involves, that this means that no one will receive a step or a cost of living increase in salary or wages because of the uncertainty of the budget the state had to. So picking this motion, I would like, just ask that this be put on our website and made very public.
We'll be happy to do that.
If they're for,
I agree.
Yeah, that's good.
I move that the Abbeville County School District continues to operate under the budget adopted for the 2019-20 school year until such time as the district adopts a new budget.
second,
Let me see that, Brett. It has been moved and seconded that the Abbeville County School District continue to operate under the budget approved for the 2019-2020 school year until such time as the district adopt a new budget. In discussion of this motion, all those in favor of the motion, let it be known by raising your hand. All those opposed, motion carried.
The next item in your in your board packet is the bond resolution information. At the last board meeting, we had board members express an interest in getting the millage back up to 32 mills. That was the approach that we took. We've given you that information, and both Ms. Heiser the bonding attorney and Mike Gallagher have provided us with the resolution that you have before you. And they have given you that with an amount not to exceed 2.5 million for the fall cycle of the SAGO general obligation bonds. And Ms. Scott can answer any specific questions that you have, or both of us together.
Okay, let's get a motion on the floor, then discussion.
I make a motion that we approve the resolution to issue general obligation bonds in the amount not to exceed $2.5 million.
Second.
It has been moved and second that the board approve the resolution to issue general obligation bonds in the amount not to exceed $2.5 million. Mr. Dunn?
Yes, I just want to clarify that, that our consultants are going to be directed to target 32 mills as a target millage. They'll work with the county to make that happen.
Absolutely. Ms. Scott, you want to weigh in?
Yes, I talked with Franny Heiser about putting the 32 mills in the resolution, and it's not allowable. We have to put a dollar amount, and Mr. Gallagher advised that we do $2.5 million based on the information he got from the auditor. He will do, this is as of June 30, 2019. He will be back in touch with her to get the current millage rate to set that more. And he can't guarantee it'll be 32 mills, but it will be as close as possible based on the information given to him by the auditor.
Any other discussion?
So, yes,
Go ahead.
I just want the record to reflect that up until this past year, we had been, our target millage for debt service millage had been 32 mills.
Yes.
I just want the record to reflect that that's where we had been up until
The
this
county
year.
changed.
And then the question I have, and I think it was reiterated too a while ago, the funds for this can only go to the capital improvement funds. That's correct.
That is correct.
The resolution says, and this is a little bit before the fact, but I can't find exactly where it is, but it says, you know, the money can be used for capital improvements or capital projects. I don't know that, this is my thought, board members, we know, we may approve a capital improvement plan next meeting. I've always kind of had issue with the broad use of the term capital projects. I'm okay with approving the bond resolution if I know that it's going to be tied to whatever plan we adopt. So is there, and I don't think we have the attorney on the line, is there any way we can make sure the motion says that, or does the bond resolution inherently take care of that? Assuming that we adopt the plan next meeting.
Ms. Scott?
The plans actually, and Ms. Newman mentioned several times that it's fluid. Now, if we have a hailstorm that tears up all the roofs in the district, we're not tied to this plan. And we can't tie, I mean, it's a plan, it's like a budget is a plan.
Yeah.
So it's fluid. We can change it as we need to. As just like this board adopt something for another board that may come on next month, we can't say, well, we approve this plan, now you have to follow it. We can't do that either. So this is just a working document that will be updated as this is the framework. This is our plan. And it can change, month to month as needs arise.
Yeah, well, I guess that's just a point, we would potentially be adopting a plan, if you will, annually, updating annually, and then, things come up. But what, if we're borrowing, say, $2 million, we end up borrowing $2 million, and all of a sudden, well, what happened to this $2 million project we were gonna do? Well, that money got spent for.
We're right back where we started.
Yeah, we're right back where we started, so, I think it's important for us to understand that. That's where, I just think any deviation from the plan should be brought to the board's attention. If it's retroactively, then we didn't know about it. And that's a discussion maybe for next meeting. If there's something that we can preemptively know about, then there's something we need to know about. But if the hailstorm comes, and, yeah, I just asked that we know about it as soon as possible, how it will affect our financial outlook for our planned projects.
Okay. Mr. Brooks?
Kind of to go along with that, for me, I would like to know that it's facilities repair or replacement or updates, but it has to be facilities, because over the years, you see the capital projects, and you see this list, and it's huge. It's all encompassing, all this. Can you give some examples of what falls under the capital projects that are not facilities?
And
Okay.
I'm going to defer to Ms. Scott for the simple reason that this was brought to the board and clarified, I think, when we were deciding whether or not to change policy to move what percent of that money into capital improvement projects. And I think am I correct, Ms. Scott, that we gave a definition of what that actually was at that time? But everybody wasn't on the board, so I'm deferring to you to address that, if you will.
It can include, it's a wide range of items. On here we have furniture, fixtures, you can charge band uniforms to that. Repairs, of course, to buildings, technology, the startup of a library. If you build a new library, all the books that you put in there can be charged for capital projects. So it's a wide range. It wouldn't be your everyday, go get a pipe and put it in the toilet. It wouldn't be that type of thing, unless you're going to do a major renovation.
Go ahead.
So on that note, this plan that we have, that we may approve next month, it don't say miscellaneous
That's right.
stuff. It doesn't say band uniforms. I realize that's in the guide. If we need to have that in our capital plan, then we need to put a budget item for it.
That's right.
That's right.
And
It needs to say something.
And
If we're gonna need furniture, we need to have it listed.
Yeah, and some of
if we
that's in
need-
here.
Yes,
That's
furniture.
it.
Yeah,
Furniture's
but
in
what-
there.
what-
But if it's, I don't know, I mean, maybe it needs to be other capital project items in a footnote that says this money can be used for band uniform. You know, we need to understand that, or it needs to be accounted for in this plan. If this thing's $10 million underfunded, I mean, we need to know.
And I think you're right, because what happens is when you use a broad paintbrush, you end up with band uniforms when you're supposed to be fixing toilets.
Right.
And I'm not saying don't get the band uniforms, but we can't keep operating that way. At some point, when we make a plan, we need to stick to it. And if we're going to deviate from it, we as a board need to use our heads and say, this is why we didn't spend $800,000 at Dixie High School or Abbeville High School, because this came up. And we're going to stop on our plan and take care of this, but next year, this is what we're going to do. I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, Mr. Taylor, because if you don't, I think the lines get blurred, if you will.
But there's one thing for sure, you don't buy band uniforms when the roof leaks.
Exactly. That's right.
All right. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the board approving a resolution to issue general obligation bonds in the amount not to exceed $2,500,000. Let it be known by raising your hand. Those opposed, motion carried. The next item?
The next item is the CEP for Wright Middle School. You have a copy of the memo from Ms. Cunningham, and you also have an attached email with a recommendation from the person in the Department of Health and Nutrition at the State Department. And I will let Ms. Cunningham walk you through this, but basically, those schools, as you remember from the 3 schools that we are currently serving as SEPs schools are John C., Long Cane, and Westwood, you've got to have that 40% is the number of students identified. And if you flirt with that line, that we've watched those numbers go up and down, then it's not as sure of a step to take. And so, Ms. Cunningham, I'm going to turn it over to you. If there's any explanation that you want to give, or we'll just ask, this is pretty explanatory, but board members may have questions.
Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. We don't have enough children that are directly certified, and that would be at John C. Because that number went down so much, if we brought in right middle with their low number, 40% is the percent that you're eligible. That's at the time you are considered eligible, but there are other factors that go into that. And with us already having the 3 schools that are CEP, Long Cane, Westwood, and John C., then it also factors how much their identified children's number went up or down. So when we look at John C., their number went down considerably, and that's what makes it not a viable option for right middle at this time.
We also don't know what this fall is going to be.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. That's very true.
Mr. Brooks?
With John C., that's a pretty dramatic change.
It is.
And do we think the poverty level has changed that much, or children are just not getting enrolled?
I'm not sure if it's that the children are not getting enrolled, or could it be the fact that the ones that are enrolled, at some point parents must have gotten maybe better jobs and they're no longer eligible for SNAP benefits.
That's a surprising
Yeah,
number.
it is.
And I'm gonna defer over there to board members from that area. Does that surprise you?
No, don't surprise me, shocks me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think it's the number of students total that John C. has dropped too.
Yeah, but
Is
still
really-
the percentages should stay the same.
Well, it depends on if those students were to,
Not
Yeah, we don't have as many.
yeah.
And I'm very surprised at that number being that,
It
being
surprises
that.
us.
We actually went back and verified the data, just to check it to make sure.
That's right, because that's what my State Department contact actually said, because it had dropped so much, to recheck my numbers, I rechecked the numbers, and they were correct. Actually, when we look at, most of our schools have had some drop. Let's see, even when I look at Westwood, they went down just 2%. You know, that's not a huge drop, but it's still a drop. They went down 2% from last year. Long Cane also went down just 1%. And overall, when I look at the other schools, Abbeville High went up just 1%. Cherokee Trail, their number actually went up. So it's just, I guess it just depends on the years. You know, some years they all kind of go a little high, but it seems like they have all been more so on the decline here recently. In recent years, they just seem like they've been declining. I don't know if maybe a little bit something's going on. People are getting a little bit better job or what have you, but for whatever reason, the numbers have been going down. And I did notice early on, because this was the year that our software changed how we were identifying the children. So it was expected that we would be able to capture more, and most districts did, but here in Abbeville, we did not. We did not capture more. And the system that we use now, it's more accurate. I take the enrollment from Power School, and then I upload that to the State Department, and they match. I get that match from them, and that's straight from DSS. So that's a better method, and it captures more children than previously, but our numbers just happen to go down this year.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we accept the administration recommends that not moving forward with implementing the CEP for Wright Middle School during this 2021 school year. And that this recommendation does not change the CEP status for John C. County and Long King Primary and West Street.
Say
second.
that again, Mr. Chairman.
Set bottom line down there. Mr. Chairman.
Bottom line.
Yes, sir. I move that we accept the administration recommendation not to move forward with implementing the CEP for Wright Middle School.
Get a second?
I second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the administration recommendation for Abbeville County School District not to move forward with implementing the CEP for Wright Middle School during the 2021 school year. This recommendation does not change the CEP status for John C. Calhoun, Long Cane Primary, and Westwood Elementary School. Any discussion of this motion? All, Mr. Brooks?
I'm sorry.
I see.
You asked for discussion. I'm sorry, go ahead. I can't hear, I apologize.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, let it be known by raising your hand. Those opposed? The motion approved. All right, we're next to the budget workshop dates.
Yes, we are trying to schedule a budget workshop, which you all requested after the end of the one that was held in May. And as you can see, it's difficult to get summer dates, and so we're constantly trying. What is before you is we actually will be meeting. We've posted a save the date on our website for the 21st to swear in our new board member for seat 7. We could hold a board budget workshop that night. We could also do it the 23rd of that week, or we could look to do it the week of our regularly scheduled meeting, or move into the 1st of August. But with summer dates, I can tell you if we don't get them on the calendar, it's hard because of people's vacations and schedules and different things. So,
Can I ask a question? Since we approved the continuing budget, I guess my next question is, are we going to know any more about the budget with the General Assembly by the June 21st?
no, sir, we've had that conversation, but the board
Has anything
expressed
changed,
having
or-
to, no, sir, but the board expressed talking about it every month. It didn't preclude us from talking about it, but it's the will of the board.
Could we not just meet right before the meeting, our regular scheduled board meeting?
On the 28th.
On the 28th, this is July the 28th. Could
That'd
we
be
not
good with me.
meet an hour to have a workshop prior to that meeting?
That'd be good with me.
Fine.
So what you're saying, meet on
On the 28th.
the 28th?
All right, ready?
That's a regular board meeting.
That's a regular board meeting, and if we decide to have executive session, we can move to.
If we're not gonna have anything prior to that.
Right. We'll do a budget workshop at 5 o'clock.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
We really don't know when they're gonna meet and do anything with the budget.
But now, I
It will
tell
be
you what we need,
September at the
what
earliest.
we need to do. Now, are we still gonna meet on the 21st
Yes.
Swearing in.
This is
to swear in, and that's all it's gonna be, just to
Yes,
swear it
right.
in and welcome them and, okay. All right.
And that is subject, and Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, that is subject to change. You could call a change that. If something
Yeah,
comes up.
have a
between-
call meeting.
If something comes up between now and, we could call it a workshop. I mean, we can
Okay.
tentatively set it for the
Yeah.
28.
Since,
28.
and I want to make a comment about this 20th meeting swearing in the new
21st.
20, no, okay, the
Yeah,
21st. Swearing in the new meeting. Why in the world, the polls were open a couple of weeks ago for a primary. Every poll in the district, I mean, the whole county was open. Why in the world did they not have the election of that board member then, rather than wait?
He was unopposed.
I reckon he's unopposed also. No, it really doesn't make sense to reopen the polls to have a special election for a board member when the polls were open.
That's right.
And I hate to say this, but I think some people are making some very bad decisions on how to spend money opening polls, okay? It just doesn't make sense to reopen the poll.
And we pay for this election, right?
And we did pay for it.
Yeah.
And what expense was that?
It's not gonna be, it's gonna cost you more than you think. It's gonna cost you more than you think.
$10,000 or $12,000.
Do we have an amount of what that's?
That's about 12,000.
What,
That was for the referendum.
That was okay.
right,
That was for the referendum.
was it $3,500
I think
per
so.
polling
There's gotta be
location?
three precincts
And
open.
I think there are 3,
They were
4,
open.
6, 7.
And,
Precinct.
and while we're on this subject, if we're okay with that, Mr. Chairman and other board members, that is the swearing in of a brand new board member, and I know that right now we're not allowing people in here. Could we not allow for any family members that might want to attend for
That'd be
that? His immediate family or something? I'll be happy to step out to give room. I'll be happy to step
Most
out.
definitely.
The mother and the father and the wife and the children.
Let me just
I
say.
mean, I'll be happy to do that.
I'll come, we can open the meeting, and if we need to step out to allow enough room
That's
in
fine.
here for swearing in, if he's the only one in here being sworn in.
Yeah,
I'm good
I mean,
with
I
that.
think that if the board would like to remove themselves to that.
If they want that.
If they want
If
that.
they want that.
I think
If
we
they
ought to
want
let
that.
And if they need to sign a waiver, we'll sign a waiver.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay.
Do we need that, does that need to be made motion?
I don't think so.
I think we just
Let's
offer
just,
the
let's
history.
just offer it and we'll
Can
walk
we
out.
extend it to the new board member, please?
Yeah, just tell him to bring his family if he wants to.
Yeah,
Don't bring
that's right.
all of them, but bring.
He's not bringing any more than like 3.
If I brought my whole family, there'd be about 500,
I
okay?
think that,
His immediate family.
Okay,
All right.
so we're clear on that?
Yes.
And we're meeting on the, right now, we're meeting on the July the 28th.
It's an action item, so.
Meeting on the 21st.
I'll make a motion. Mr. Chairman, I make a
27th.
motion that we move the budget workshop to our July the 28th meeting, regularly scheduled board meeting, to have a budget workshop prior to that meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we hold our budget workshop on July the 28th prior to our regular meeting. In discussion of this motion. All those in favor?
I'd like to have a discussion on it just for a second.
Okay.
We need to have that. One of the first things on the agenda should be the reversal of the public input.
Wait a minute.
Well, they already got that. It's already on there.
Did you?
Yeah, that's already
That's
on there.
already-
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
we already got that.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion, let it be known by raising your hand.
I see it.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Okay, you have before you the recommendation from administration for one release of a teacher contract, and we will take that up before we have a second motion for contracts.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we release the contract for the 2021 school year.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we release the 2021 contract school year. In discussion of this motion, all those in favor of releasing the 2021 contract, let it be known by raising your hand. Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, next motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve one continuing contract and one induction contract.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve one continuing contract and one induction contract. Any discussion of this motion? All those in favor of the motion, let it be known by raising your hand. Those opposed, motion carried. Okay. Dr. Powell, I was just reading a draft release. Do you have anything you'd like to say before I read this?
No, sir.
All right. On
Mr.
May-
Tisdale, could you remove your mask just while you do that? No, all the way.
I tell you, I believe in masses.
Okay, but we can't understand you real good, okay?
All right. On May 26, 2020, Abbeville County School District Superintendent Dr. Julie Fowler requested to discuss her contract with the District Board of Trustees during executive session. During this meeting, Dr. Fowler advised the board that she did not plan to return as superintendent after June 30, 2021, the date her contract expires. Dr. Fowler stated she would be glad to assist the board in developing a timeline to conduct a search for a new superintendent. She also stated that if the board decide to begin the process prior to June 30, 2021, she was amenable to leaving the district earlier if the board believed that was best. The board and Dr. Fowler agreed they wanted to do what is best for the students and staff in Abbeville County School District, and have reached a mutual agreement that Dr. Fowler will stay through this summer to help reopen schools and launch the technology initiative. The board will now begin searching for an interim superintendent to join the district no later than the start of school in August. As those plans are finalized, we will provide additional information. The board thanks Dr. Fowler for her leadership since she assumed the role of superintendent following the tragic death of Dr. Betty Jo Hall in August 2019, and wishes Dr. Fowler well in her future endeavor. Thank you, Dr. Fowler.
Thank you, Mr. Tisdale.
Request for information?
I believe we done asked for all of this.
Okay.
I think we've already asked for all of it.
All right, then, we have completed the business of the school district that is on the agenda. Does any board member object to us adjourning this meeting at this time? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned.